Welcome to the story of legendary in his presence. I'm Pastor Benjamin Dube.
Music with the gospel in it is the main thing for people to receive. It's not just dull styles of music that makes gospel music, no. Music is up-tempo, is ballads, it whatever, reggae, it might be country, but that kind of music must have the message of the love of God. And I believe I'm looking forward to that time where I can prove it clearly to everybody that gospel music is a unique kind of music.
Well, in his presence is a series of recordings that I have started to do. I started in about 2003, if I'm not mistaken, and we moved on to the second one. And obviously, in his presence came out of an encounter that I had with God, and when God actually was speaking to me in my prayer time and saying to me, I am like a false worshiper. And obviously, I mean, I knew false prophets, I knew false teachers, but I never, ever knew that there would be a false worshiper. And God just revealed to me and that I was that kind of a worshiper because of the fact that I actually fed from the audience. I was feeding from the audience and their praises. They're showering me with all, the praises. And God then said to me, you are saying that you're worshiping me, but in actual fact, you are worshiping me via the audience, and all the praise comes to you instead of the praise coming to me. And I think that actually shook me. It made me realize that I was a hypocrite, and really using God as a way of getting praise and acknowledgement from people. And yet, all the acknowledgement and the praise is supposed to go to God. And I think that changed my perspective of what worship is. And in my prayer, during my prayer, asking God, but I mean, I've been doing this for long, and God said to me, get out of the audience. Get out of the audience. If you can worship me in seclusion, you can worship me anywhere. And that's when I decided, this is it. I need to be a true worshiper, worshiping God in spirit and in truth. And God then led me to in his presence. And that's when I started doing a recording under the banner or the title In His Presence. And I remember, when I first spoke to my partner in the recording business, and I said to him, listen, I just want to start in his presence, recording in seclusion, recording without the audience. I mean, he looked at me and he said, you're joking. You're never going to actually sell any CD without the audience. And I said, but I feel so heavily in my spirit that I need to do this. And he said, no, I'm not going to spend my money in just doing that. We need to make money, and all that. And then I said, okay, let's try it. If it doesn't work, then we can go back to the audience. And then we did. And the first in his presence was a difficult kind of like step for me to take. I mean, the previous albums, they were selling well, and but then In His Presence one doubled up. It kind of like went from just a platinum to double platinum. And when he saw that, and he said, "No, Benjamin, this thing is working, man." And then we then continued with In His Presence, and then we went on to Worship in His Presence, and we went on to Healing, and we went on to Renewal and Sanctified, and then we actually did Victorious in His Presence, and then it was Glory in His Presence. So now we are on Legendary. How did we get to Legendary? It was a very, very difficult kind of like a journey for me to get to Legendary, because at first I felt God was actually saying I need to do, and I still feel, I must admit, that I need to do South Africa in His Presence. So, but then as we were looking into it, I realized that I was celebrating my 60th birthday, and having lived 6 decades, it needed me to ponder on that and just take time and thank God for having used me in the way He did, and even using me in the lives of many other artists, gospel artists, and for me in becoming a midwife for those artists, in really helping them to give birth to that which is inside them, and I realized that there can never be, or there will never be, a legend without leaving a legacy. A legend is a legend because he has left a legacy for those that are coming after him. And so, and then it dawned in my mind and in my heart that I need to, at the same time, while I'm celebrating my life, I need to celebrate other people's gifts, And I met with Lindelani, Dr. Lindelani Mkhize, who actually is a very, how can I say, effective and active legend in the gospel and in the music at large in South Africa. And then I sat with him and I said, you know what, I need to do this and a recording, and is it possible that we can actually bring joyous celebration in and let's just celebrate each other. He was ready for it. He was more than ready, and he said, you know what, Fundisi, this is what I've been waiting for. And I think people actually don't know where we are coming from. And so, and even that we need to actually speak about some things that people don't know. And even for people to understand that we are not competing. In fact, it is the followers and the fans that are competing, those that are following us. And so we need to actually present a united front and make them aware that we are together. And that's when I thought to myself, this is the right thing to do, and I need to even bring other legends and celebrate them. You will see in this album, it's not only about my recording, but at the same time I'm celebrating those that have been there with me during my time, and at the same time they're still continuing to do the work. How did I select the team of Legendary in His Presence? As always, I actually look for people that have the gift, and whose gift is current, and people that would add to what I am doing, people that will enhance what I'm doing. And I think it is important for one, not only to enhance my music, but even to enhance their gifts in making sure that they are being celebrated too, not only me being celebrated. And so, yes, I mean, we have the very likes in the band of Joseph Makola, who is the music director, and have even on the bass, Pega Mtetua, and we have on the drums, and that is Sabu, and we have the likes of Bongani Nkosi and Gama, and of course Snare on the saxophone, and guitar, which is Augustus, who comes all the way from Nigeria. He's like family now. So, and these are celebrated musicians that I had to come up with. And obviously then we have the backing singers, people that have an edge into worship, you know. And I had to make sure that this time I have Ngobi of Joyous Celebration having a feature, and Odi Mwango. I've been actually doing a lot with her, and she's amazing. And I have the Dube brothers, and I brought in even Zodwa, who originally was working with Joyous Celebration. So you know how it is, you know. God has graced me with that covering and the anointing that is able to engulf everyone that comes under my wing. And I'm so humbled that everything that I do and whoever comes in just aligns themselves with what God is doing in my life. And more so, I need to add this, and pride is something that I don't run with, and in fact I hate pride, and I've learned that pride cannot worship God, but humility is able to worship God effectively. So people that have to work with me should definitely humble themselves and do what God wants them to do, not what they feel and think and want to do, you know. And obviously there has to be unity in whatever we are doing. So the main important thing is that whenever somebody comes to work with me, must know that you are not doing it for yourself. You are doing it for God. And therefore you need to have the spirit of humility, and God will use you effectively. The issue of the production is the most difficult one. And you know what, listen, I want to share this with everyone. It was not easy for Legendary. It was it was steepy. It was a difficult one. Every time I have to outdo my previous production. Every time I have to actually do better than I've done before. And so that was difficult. More so that this time I was not actually working with anyone. It was just Dube Connection that was doing the production, and coming all the way into the budget of everything. And one other thing is that I actually initially partnered with some people who actually were willing to sponsor, and all of a sudden, last minute, they could not come through, and I was dependent on them. That brought stress for me. That was so stressful. And if I actually never had depression on Legendary, I'll never have a depression anymore. I realize that the scripture that says, come and buy without money, is real. Come and get something without you paying is real. When God says that, He knows what He's talking about. If you trust Him, you depend on Him, and you trust His promises and believe in His promises, He will come through for you. Production was not easy for us, and but God saw us through. He was almost like taking a child one step at a time, holding his hand and let him walk through to be able to get to a point where he's able to run on his own. I think that's what God did. The stage itself, we had to sit down and design it and talk about it as to, now it had to accommodate the orchestra, accommodate the BVs, accommodate the band, accommodate even Joyous Celebration, which is the Legends as a whole. It was a huge stage, and it didn't come cheap. Lighting, everything, and it was like costly. And that is why I started by saying, God did it. God did it. I didn't have the funds, I didn't have the money, but I was able to carry it out. And there's one thing that kept on, resonating in my spirit. It kept on resonating, and that was, I gave you the vision. I will provide for the vision. And kept on ringing in my mind and in my spirit. Let me just say this. The production, you will see it. It's not just a beginner's production. It is a legendary production. And even the content was amazing, I had to bring the guys that I work with when coming to production, and obviously they did their best, proactive, and they delivered. And I'm so glad that we actually did it through Christ. why did I choose the legends that were featured? To start with, I wanted every legend in the gospel. I wanted everyone. Obviously, there are just a few who were not able, who didn't make it, who were not able to do it. But predominantly, or let me say, many of them came through. The Ladysmith Black Mambazo, even from the time of Ubabu Ushabalala, Umshengu, I did a project with them that was called A Land of Hope, Place of Hope, something like that. I think Place of Hope, which was an international project. And it was actually produced by, if I'm not mistaken, it was Warner Brothers. And so I featured with them in that project. And since then, I always wanted to do something with them because they are legends and they represented South Africa in the international stage, the Grammys, I mean, you name it. And then they performed Carnegie Hall and then in the US. So much that they have done with Paul Simon and all that. And I wanted to just have them a part of my journey, And then, of course, I had Dr. Rebecca Malupe, whom I come a long way. I mean, Rebecca is almost like, and some people, they say, I am mina ngumkhulu ugogo we gospel. So we've been there for a long time. Her first gospel album, I was called in to write a song. Her first gospel album, and that song was Isabata. And I'm doing that song with her in the legendary In His Presence. So definitely, I would not have actually forgotten about her or forget her. And then I looked at Dr. Winnie Mashaba, whom I really respect for staying true to her culture and language in the gospel. And she really, really has made a mark in our country. And obviously, Joyous Celebration. The first Joyous album I was actually featured in. Anyway, Dr. Lindelani Mkhize is the one that actually, with Mthunzi Namba, that they called me in because Mthunzi Namba is a friend of mine, and so I did Bambelela Gupileni, which is Leaning on the Everlasting Arm, and that was the first track on that album. And they pushed Joyous, and that's why most of the time I keep on saying I'm the one who actually kick-started Joyous, not really because I'm the one who had the vision, but because Joyous started with that track, and that song actually broke the ground for Joyous Celebration. Already, I was already established as Benjamin Dube in the gospel, and so Joyous Celebration started in 1997. By that time, I was already, in the gospel arena or industry, and so then I actually brought in Sipho Makavani, and who is a legend in his right. And then I brought in even Lebu's Khobela. Lebu's Khobela, it was because God actually impressed it in my heart that I needed to bring her in because she's got the making of a legend. And at the same time, because she was staying true to the heritage that we have, singing the hymns, you know, South African hymns and traditional songs and all that. And I felt God was leading me into ushering her into that stage of a legendary stage. Obviously, having Utlengiwe was amazing for me. And Tlengiwe has the legendary, you know, attributes. And so even her, you know, was one person that I really felt she was the right person to be on that stage. And of course, I had Deborah in her absence. And I felt because of the fact that before she passed on, I spoke to her because I wanted her to be part of the recording. As a matter of fact, I wanted to do a single with her before she passed on, and which would actually culminate to her being part of the album. So I then decided to bring in one of her backing singers to really do her song and represent Deborah, because she's one of the legends in South Africa in the gospel. And so she was represented. And obviously I had, even in the first session, Benjamin Dube, which certainly her gift and her talent has the attributes of legendary, you know, and I actually added her into legends in his presence. Well, the idea behind the awards that I presented was because I realized that in celebrating me would be not just enough. We need to celebrate one another. And I mean, for me, presenting awards to the legends was actually to speak to the fact that we need to celebrate one another. We should not compete with each other, but we need to thank God for the gifts that we are to our nation. If no one, like in the organizations or in the arts and culture of South Africa department or ministry, is really celebrating us, let us celebrate one another. And I think that that is so important, and encourage, what am I saying now? Encourage one another and lift each other up. And because in bringing somebody up, even myself, I'm lifted up, you know. And so I gave those awards to all the legends in acknowledging the work that they have done, and even making them aware that God is grateful for what they have done, because every gift is God-given. It's not given by man, but it's given by God. And every good gift comes from above. And certainly in them exercising their gift, they are acknowledging the giver of the gift. The DC operations team, it was really, I cannot really even, start, telling as to how I feel about them. They really picked me up. They lifted me up. They really made sure that that which I had as a vision is realized and manifest and shows up. Most of the time when you're a dreamer, you lack the capacity of letting the dream becomes a reality. And they are the ones that definitely made it possible for me to, almost like they were midwives. They were helping me give birth to this thing. And the likes of Hloni, who is my brand, manager and does the work behind scenes when coming to anything that has to do with Dube Connection, and Pastor Shabalala, who's doing so much to and praying for me, praying with me, and speaking things into reality, and obviously Hloni brought in even some of her, ground team, people that would be running up and down and putting things in place. It was so amazing that it all came together, even when coming to the issues of publicity, when coming to issues of marketing and all that. If there is anything that I'm not very good at, it's when coming to marketing. I can't speak for myself. I can't convince you about what I have and what I can do. But, the likes of Hloni has done an incredible work, I must say. And sometimes I would pray her through because I know it's not easy to really, really conceptualize some of the things that I sometimes come up with and really put them into action and make them manifest and show up, And but I should say that the first Dube Connection production was not easy. And so, and I'm thankful that I had the DC operational team. And we had sleepless nights. We had, meetings that would be unending, and such that we actually had to make sure that even during the time of Sun City, we still had to have meetings and really practically put things in place. I actually take my hat for them, and I'm owing them. I'm still owing them a lot. And so thank you to all of them. Some of them I may not have mentioned their names, but I must say they did exceptionally well. Okay, the first song that I had to drop, which is I Need The Medley, was just like giving a picture of what legendary is all about. because I had to actually go back and make a medley of some of the songs that were part of my journey in His Presence series. So the likes of Uya Halalela, the likes of In Your Presence, you know, all those songs that really made In His Presence big. So I had to bring them together into one. And of course, I added that song which everybody knows, I need thee, oh, I need thee, and which resonated with my spirit in saying God must have His way. So I think that's where it was coming from, and that's why I had to drop that medley first, just to make people aware. It's all about God, who has given me the gift that I have. And obviously, I mean, I could have come up with another song, and which of course is the second song that we will be running with, that is Ugubonga, that is done by Uxoli Mngwango, which is one of the songs that resonated with me, because I was saying, thank you, Lord, and for all the blessings that you have given and all that which you've done for me. And so, yeah, immediately after the medley, that is the song you can look out for. Okay, what I am praying for this album to achieve, number one, is to inspire the upcoming gospel artists, and for them to really stand the test of time and to stay for the cycle. In other words, I don't know whether that makes sense, but to hang on and never give up, and to know that everything happens in its own season, you know, and to celebrate one another. And that is so important. Celebrate one another. And of course, to the public and to my followers, this album is actually saying to you, thank you for believing in my ministry. And for you to understand that I wasn't doing it just to get the glory or the praise, but I've discovered the secret of staying and standing the test of time. And that is, I will be honored here on earth, and I will be honored after my life on earth. And that is more than just being famous on earth. And that is what I want you to take with you. And it's all about Him. Is this my last? No. All I can say about that is that I know that I need to wait on God. I need to hear from God. I need to actually get a directive from God in prayer, and that's what I'm doing right now, in knowing what next after the legendary or legendary in His presence. I'm prayerful about that, but I know there is still much that I have to do, and I know that there's much that is still expected of me, but I do not know as to in what direction that is going to take. I'm prayerful about it, and I know as long as God is in it, it's going to be bigger, and it's going to be even more effective. That's all I can say. I don't know where I'm going, but I know God knows, and He will direct me. And it's not the last. You see me, greater and bigger things are ahead of me.